Right. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome into the Women's Wellness Network. Look at this. We have a big event going on. Well, maybe it's not huge, but it's big for me and it's big for the Women's Wellness Network. And I'm so happy that you all could come today, our lovely panel of women. So welcome in Coach Kylye, welcome in Allison, welcome in Coach Maaike, welcome in Keren, and welcome in Roxeanne. It is so lovely to have you all here. I'm so thrilled that you could all make it. And we've done interviews with all of you, and we've had some good conversations around the subject of menopause. And I know there's probably still a lot of questions out there. Women are still wondering what's right for me and what's the best thing for me personally. And yeah, I just thought we could share a little more in depth into our own personal stuff. Of course, don't say anything you're not comfortable with. And then, yeah, Facebook people, I'm not monitoring the comments, but if you would like to connect with anybody afterwards, make sure that you put their name into the comments, and they will have a look for you to see if that you want them to reach out to you. And let me see what else. Yeah, just any questions or anything, because we can answer those later afterwards. What else? I guess that's probably about it. So with that being said, welcome to the Meno Pause. And I feel like it's that period, actually, that pause in the action there in our womanly cycles and our thing that kind of defines us as a woman, because it's our own, men can't make babies, only we can. So super impressive to be a woman in that way. And then when we come to the pause at the end, it's like, oh my, okay, now what? Now I get to just be me. And what is that? Which is a lot of the time we don't even know. So here we are, and I'm going to let you girls go around and introduce yourselves, and just for a little background context so that the viewers know, just give a little who you are. And yeah, Coach Kylye, how about you go first?
Hey. Hi, I am Coach Kylye, and I like to call myself a script shifter with Happily Ever Menopause. And I focus on the spiritual and psychological side, so faith and mindset when it comes to menopause.
Thank you. Thank you. And Allison, how about you?
Hi, I am a menopause specialist coach and hypnosis practitioner. And so I work with women in a coaching arena, and then I add the element of hypnosis to help them transition through in a holistic way and sort of replant some limiting beliefs and helping them grow through menopause and thrive.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Coach Maaike, how about you?
Hi, I'm Coach Maaike, and I like to call myself the wellness guru. I believe that menopause, we need to take care of our health. It's our foundation, and our nutrition takes a big, big role. So when we do that foundation, that is my passion, to bring that energy, that life from within, that we can do anything that we want. So it's like putting that foundation in all holistic ways. So it's mind, body, spirit. So I like to help them with their mindset for the menopausal woman.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Keren, please, how about you?
Yes, so I like to call myself the midlife mysteries coach. So I work with women in the second half of life, and menopause is often the start, this is how I see it, of a heroine's journey or a descent into the underworld. There's often a lot of things going on physically, emotionally, psychospiritually. And so I support women to kind of navigate through that using a variety of tools. And one of them, the key one, is coming back into a sense of, who am I now, as you talked about, and also the lunar cycle. We can move with a new kind of cycle through the lunation. And so I teach women how to do that, how to gather up all the parts of themselves and how to express themselves through their creativity.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And last, of course, but not least, Roxeanne, please.
Thank you, Tammy. I am Roxeanne Hardenburg. I am a human health transformation strategist. I'm also a fast track health hacker, a DNA analyst, and a botanical biohacker. So I work with men and women, but my specialty is women, having been diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis in 2003, and then having been put into a chemical state of menopause in 2007. I then spent many years on hormone treatments, and by 2020 was a wreck and had to figure out how to actually fix my own body, and that's what birthed my program. My background is actually business analytics, data, DNA. That's why I love looking at a good set of data. And so I learned how to apply that to the human form. And so I specialize in the gut reset. I came to learn that by fixing my IBS, my endometriosis came into play, and all my other hormones then started coming right. And majority of my clients are actually menopause and post-menopause, which is where I learned that the gut really plays a pivotal role. And just like, is it Keren that said the lunar cycle is something that I find fascinating, because if you're not menstruating, you need to synchronize within a cycle. And so that is 100% correct. And so I absolutely love working with women and hormones. And I find that if you just learn how to transition naturally using food, lifestyle, and understanding what your DNA says about your gut microbiome, you can quite literally aim with accuracy and age gracefully without losing your sanity. So that's what I love. I love what I do, and I do what I love, and I'm on a mission to heal the world one human at a time.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, we all need healing in some way, and I'll accept any help along the way. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes, you women are all so diverse and have such interesting ways that you approach things. That's why I think this panel is going to be amazing. So I'm like so excited. I can't even help myself. Okay, so our first question is, how has menopause affected you on a personal level? So Coach Kylye, if you could go first, how has menopause affected you on a personal level?
Thank you. So first of all, I love the group of women that is here and the things that we are doing. This is amazing. And thanks, Tammy, for having us here. How has menopause affected me personally? I taught sexual health to adult women for about 14 years, I believe. And in that entire time, being flown to different places in the world and going to seminars and listening to speakers, menopause was never brought up once. I don't know how. I mean, I was in the industry talking about sexual health. I was helping women, and they would maybe put like little hints in there that were like, well, you know, when you're older. And so for me, I actually just thought menopause was something that happened to people that were maybe like, I don't know, 70, 80, 90 years old. There was no real concept of it for me. And then, of course, I hit perimenopause quite a few years ago. And in that process, I learned that the wellness practitioners and doctors and things in our area, they didn't have any information on menopause. It was very minimal. And in fact, my doctor was prescribing very, very hard painkillers for me for what I was going through, which I later found out was perimenopause. And so I spent a good 4 or 5 years starting to really dive into the research and use my background in sexual health to look at this. And then I just was so inspired and captivated by the fact that there was a little bit of information around like nutrition and hormones and things like that, but nothing to do with what are we supposed to think when we're in this phase? How are we supposed to go from who women are supposed to show up as in this middle part of their life into this last part of her life? And there's a major spiritual piece that kicks in when we get into this phase of our life, because we know where we're going. We know what the end of this journey is. And so I was really, really fascinated by that. And so I dove deeply into that. And so the way that menopause affected me was I started to just become completely mystified and captivated by the story around the fact that I believe that menopause is like a vision quest, and that it's a calling, and it's something that we get to choose to step into on purpose and become who we're becoming and become wise women and elders in this powerful, powerful phase of ourselves. Or we get to become senior citizens and become invisible and disappear and deal with the the horrible parts of menopause. And so that really captivated me. And so I think that, yeah, that's how menopause affected me and inspired me to be here. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good timing too there, girl. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Allison, how about you? How has menopause affected you personally?
Well, I completely echo Kylye when it comes to this. And yes, I didn't even know I was in perimenopause. And it was this, no one ever talked about it. You knew it was coming, kind of. But again, it was sort of like, you really do think it's like it's later on. And I started to notice a lot of different things happening in my more anxiety. Like I was starting to experience extreme anxiety and not being able to sort of juggle my life very well. And I kept thinking, what's going on? And I have a 20-year fitness background, so I always was into health and wellness. And I thought, oh, there's something wrong. Like, why am I broken? And it wasn't until I sort of fell into really the COVID years where I realized, oh, this is perimenopause. And I started asking my doctor more questions, like, what should I do about this? And I'm not a candidate for HRT and all the symptoms I was experiencing. And I love my doctor. He's lovely, but there was nothing he could really kind of steer me in that direction, in any sort of direction. And so I decided to kind of jump in and go, okay, what do I do? And I had to self-teach. I was self-taught, learn information about menopause. And I agree with Kylye, it's the spiritual, it's this feeling of becoming and trying to get that out there. And I realize I'm not alone in this. And so I want to, I was just became this passionate about, I want to create space for women to come together and find each other. And yes, there's the menopause symptoms, but if you come to the acceptance of menopause, I wanted to get into like, stop following the anti-aging dream.
Mm.
Like, we are blessed to be aging, and let's embrace the wisdom, and let's sort of that let go of who we once were, and let's embrace who we are now, and let's start working together and bring a voice to it. Because again, there was nothing being said, and you watch media continuously telling us women that you can look like this again, you can go and be younger again, you can have the body of your 25-year-old self. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want to be who I am. I want to share my wisdom. And I know I'm not alone. And so, you know what? I now know this is perimenopause heading into menopause. And I want my postmenopause to be fabulous. And let's do this together, hand in hand. And let's bring the next generation up so they're going to be proactive than reactive. So that's my experience so far.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, proactive, super important. I think that's part of what we're trying to do here because some people just don't know. So thank you for that. And Coach Maaike, how about you? Personal experiences with menopause?
Well, I had no idea what that was actually. I had no idea. Nobody had taught me. I know that my mom had a hysterectomy when she was quite young, but that's all I knew. And she always taught us like go natural stuff, but nothing what I was going to go through. In my family, everybody was very quiet of their inner things, like no emotions shared, or my father passed away by cancer. My mother later on had osteoporosis. Well, she still has, but she takes care of it. So yeah, 40, I was feeling like very tired, and 45, 48, I felt like breast pain and brain fog. And I said, I was running marathons at that time. It's like, what is happening? And I felt like I resonate so much with Coach Kylye and with Allison. I was feeling like I was falling apart. And here I was, and also feeling like devastated and very alone in this silence because I was dealing with everything alone. I was not expressing to anybody what was happening to me, which was for me, because I actually started investigating what unnatural things I could do. I never went to the doctor for this. I believed that I could take care of myself. And it was a beautiful awakening to learn that changing the lifestyle, changing the food, becoming connected with my spiritual part that I had no idea. I knew that she was there, but I never connected that. So it helped me create a new relationship with me and discover who she was from the inside out. And that is exactly what I like to help women is like, hey, there's a beauty inside, that there's a disconnect. And when we start making changes in our life, like lifestyle, our relationships start getting better, because I felt broken, like I couldn't relate even to my kids, to my husband, to my family members, because I didn't know what to say, what not to say, what was right, what was not right. It like those like things, it like everything was kind of taboo. I had no idea what was I going through, but just through going through everything and now being immersed in so many groups and women and talking about menopause and now leading women in menopause, which actually is leading women in their self-awakening from 40 to 50 to 60 and becoming true to who they really are and becoming true to what they want and have a voice for that. That has helped me, just all the conversations, learn and be validated to all my work and all the things that I discovered on my own. Is like, oh, and this really works. When you do the work with them, it's like, there's just a guidance of, okay, try this, try this, try this. And then they feel transformed. And it's just a beautiful awakening, because before 50, everything is research, right? After 50, there's a new cycle, and it's an awakening, and it's a leading to not having to deal with the devastating mental illnesses, because we are wise, and I don't want anybody to die with their gift inside. I want them to share. I want all of us in every generation to share that wisdom to further generations.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maaike. Okay, Keren, how about you? What kind of personal issues have you come across?
Yeah.
With your
First, I want to
menopause
say so
journey?
much synergy with everything everybody has said so far. It's amazing. I love this. That we're having this conversation says a lot about how we're evolving, you know. And so thank you for that. So for me, you know, I just keep having this image of my mother, who didn't talk a lot about things, wasn't particularly, shall I say, you know, she's moved on now, but wasn't particularly self-aware. But I remember when she was obviously going through menopause, although it was never spoken about, we were living in a very hot climate at the time. And I just remember just all this anger and frustration about how hot she was. And we've got to get out of here. We've got to get out. You know, she was just so driven by anxiety. And I kind of fluffed it off and, oh, that's just mom being mom kind of thing. And then I guess as I started going through the same stage, my mother was already suffering from dementia. It wasn't something I could talk to her about. But I started to recognize that archetypal journey. And I talked before about initiation, and Coach Kylye talked about vision quest. It's a very similar kind of, we're just using different language, but I recognized a kind of an underworld journey that I've taken a couple of times at different stages of my life, but I recognized, okay, so this transition is happening for me. It wasn't particularly, there weren't a lot of physical symptoms going in. I would say there's been more kind of coming out, and it's because, so two things I would say about that. One is I was doing what I loved. I was dancing. I was enjoying my creative passion, which I think is one of the pillars that I work with women. When you're doing what you love, you are less likely to experience physical symptoms of menopause. So when I was going in, I was there was so much joy in my life. I was expressing myself creatively. I never got hot flashes when I was on the dance floor, which you would expect, right? Like the heat and all. Never. It was when I was, you know, anxious about something. And then what happened was during COVID, I was kind of in that sort of post-menopausal phase. I was more anxious about what was going on in the world. Then I started hot flashes. I started eating the wrong things. I started gaining some weight. And then I recognized, not only am I in menopause, like, well, kind of post-menopause, but it goes on for, 12 years, according to who you speak to, like the whole journey. The world is in menopause. We are in a time of being in the mystery, being in the unknown. We've taken a descent, and what is next has not yet been birthed. And we're all in this, we're all enraged and freaked out. And so that really supported, I think, the work that I do to understand how to help other women to find their joy and experience fewer symptoms. So that's really the type of work that I love to do.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Keren. Wow, my goodness, you women have so much knowledge. Holy smokes. Okay, Roxeanne. Okay, what kind of things have menopause dealt to you?
Well, I think for me, the journey's been a little bit different. I'm not yet in that area of my life yet. I mean, I'm turning 44 this year, but my personal experience started in my 20s, obviously, when I went into menopause, and chemically induced, so to say, and then spent my years going through all of those symptoms and then having to figure out when I was 40 why my body was such a mess. And then I remember, just like Keren said, watching all the women in my family. They've all had a history of issues. My aunt had a hysterectomy in her late 20s. My mother had body parts removed, also from endometriosis, and just watching, her having her hot flushes and just trying to understand, and then cancer in my family and my grandfather having dementia, and everybody just really getting sick over the years. But when it came to the woman, obviously, being a researcher by nature, I study everything. And so I started looking during lockdown at the research as to what was causing all my symptoms, because I felt like I was going crazy. I had all the symptoms, yet I was 40. And then I started looking at the correlation of how much younger women are entering perimenopause in their 30s already. And I was like, but that's crazy. That doesn't make sense. And then I started studying why. And so it came down, and this is what fascinates me about the human body. I love Dr. Mindy Pelz, Fast Like a Girl. She wrote that book. It's amazing. And I came to realize that what really is throwing off the human bodies, especially women in this case for this topic today, is the xenoestrogens, the harmful toxic estrogens in our environment, our water, our food, our medication. It's all broken. And I then came to learn about processed foods, and I started swapping pharmaceutical medication for nutraceutical and phyto medication, which is why I started studying herbalism, and I started studying ketosis and intermittent fasting and cryotherapy and all of these amazing healing hacks that the body is naturally inclined to lean towards to heal itself. But we're so disconnected as a human race, but also as women. And then starting to work with women after I got all my results, reversed all my conditions within 7 months, reversed my biological age by 20 years. That really just means I kept my inflammation markers down to a point where I was no longer aging as fast as what I was before. I mean, I never used to look like this until I was in like my 20s, maybe. I mean, Tammy, you've done my challenge, you've seen the before and after. And it was crazy how much older I was getting so much quicker. Like I was aging so fast. And all my symptoms just started going away. And I realized, okay, well, hang on. There's a lot of connections here. And so when I started teaching other women, 50s, 60s, and older, and they all started getting amazing results. And I was like, but hang on, you all have different health issues. You're all from different health, age groups. What's going on here? Why is everyone getting such great results? And that's when I locked it into the gut. So I just love working with the gut microbiome. I love working with the timers on or off or up. It says time's up, but I still got, do I still have time?
Say your words.
Right. So yes, I just love how when you bring it all into the gut and you work with a woman's DNA, you can really aim with accuracy, because I've been able to lock in each woman's identical requirements in terms of what gut bacteria strain she's missing, so that so she can metabolize her hormones correctly. If she has certain symptoms, breast tenderness, etc., that's excess estrogen. If we have a look at her toxins, her heavy metals, those are all the things that are throwing off the endocrine system, which I find so fascinating, because that's the hormones. And so I think, and I know, not I think, us women are so powerful when we harness our hormones and we get into sync with our environment, with Mother Nature, and we go back in time to how things used to be done. And we eat and we heal and we sleep and we spiritually connect like how we used to, instead of this fast-paced world. We're so connected, yet we've never been so disconnected in our lives before. And so I love just working with women to connect them with themselves so that they can learn how to heal again and bounce back to whatever age they feel they want to be. So yeah, that's my story.
Beautiful. Thank you, Roxeanne. Thank you. I wasn't sure about the timer because
The timer threw me off there. I wasn't quite sure what was going on.
I think I started it late and you
That's
know,
okay.
I'm new to this stuff.
It's all good.
Thank you all for your answers. Amazing. So our next question is, what beliefs did you hold about menopause before you started your journey? So some of you spoke to that already, you know, what kind of things were going to happen to you and all those, the things that you were, you know, told when you were younger, maybe before it was happening, the myths you learned from your family, what kind of symptoms you heard, you know, that were going to come out. And because I think a lot of women watching, they hear these horror stories and they think, oh, is that really going to happen? Is this really me? Am I the only one who's heard this thing? And, you know, we've all heard these things that are more on the negative side rather than the positive side. So what are the beliefs or the beliefs that you had that were the positive ones? Like, what was the good things that were going to come out of menopause? Because we grow up hearing all these horror stories, but on the outside edge, there's always these little things, oh, like, you know, being the crone or something like that, which, you know, there are benefits. So please speak to your beliefs about the positive things that were going to come out of menopause for you when you started that journey. And we'll begin with Coach Kylye again, please.
Okay, so just to clarify, Tammy, do you mean like before we started getting into what we're doing, what we believe?
Yeah, like as you were, you know, all those things that you learned about menopause before you knew about menopause.
I'm probably going to be really short on this then, because even being in the sexual health industry, I knew nothing. I basically learned that when you got really, really old, it was going to be really, really bad. And that was it. I really knew nothing about it. I didn't even know that it meant that it was when you had the cessation of your menstrual cycle. I didn't know any of that. So I had nothing to go on. My family never talked about it. We never learned about it in all of the sexual health stuff that I did. Nothing.
Ugh, that is so unfortunate. Okay, that just speaks right to exactly what's pretty much still happening today out there in the world. So,
Yep.
Right. Okay, so well, we can keep these shorter. However you feel you would like to answer, however much time you want to take, you go right ahead. Allison, to you.
So the belief system, it was just sort of when I was going into thinking about, it was more of, it'll happen in your 50s and 60s. First of all, it was way later than you anticipated in your head. In your head, you were like, oh, okay. And also the belief system of, there was no knowledge of the perimenopause, right? Like, you know, the 10 years that leads you to that moment, you almost feel like it's like a tap. Like, okay, when you hit menopause, it turns off. That's it. Like, that's all I knew is a belief system of, because again, no one really talked about it. And this is why, and no one talked about the positive or the negative. It was just sort of a neutral ground. I knew about hot flashes. My mother-in-law, my mother, they experienced getting hot, and that was about the gist of it, right? So there was no belief system. It was, I'm going to hit into my 50s and 60s, my period will stop, but nothing leading into the rest of it. But I do love what we were in this panel to add to the belief system is, this is why we are doing this panel, is to create a new belief system for women out there who are joining the perimenopause journey, and for those of us who have gone to the other side of it, because like, we spend a third of our life, most of us in a menopausal state, and I would love to start getting a positive spin on it, because even when you're talking, there's a lot of social media now about menopause, it really does highlight the terrible stuff. And there is something beautiful about it. I don't know about this panel, but the idea of not having to worry about a period, I'm okay with that. I know it takes a while to get there. I know there's a lot of ups and downs to get there, but I'm like, I'm okay with this. I don't really want it anymore. I've had it since I was 12. It's played its purpose. I'm done. And I'd rather line up with the moon than have to, and so I don't know. There's this beauty. And I think the most interesting part that I've learned to bring a positive spin to menopause, it really is women coming together more and more in the crone years in a circle, and the spirituality, and it's like a rebirth. And I like to look at it as, this is a rebirth. You also have the voice now and the knowledge to back it up, so we're not as quiet as we used to be. And I love that. I love the power and empowering women with our voices, and that comes with menopause. That's the positive.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's, a lot of things out there that are not the good light. So yeah, if Coach Maaike, if you could speak to some beliefs that you held, if you had any positive beliefs around menopause before you knew the things that you know.
Yes, well, I totally resonate again with Coach Kylye and Allison. I had no beliefs whatsoever. It's like not good or not bad. Actually, I had no idea what that season of life meant and what women go through in that season of life. But I did have two beautiful examples from the two sides of my families, my father and my mother. So an aunt of my mother's, she was a energy healer in Holland. My mother is from Holland. And I went to visit her when I was 14. And she healed with energy. That always fascinated. I always was fascinated about health and wellness in a natural way. So that I have that staple there and she was in her 80s and she was doing amazing and she was healing others. So that was a one side of the story. And on my father's side, I had another aunt. She died at 99.9. So almost 100. We celebrated her 99 and a half as a 100. And she was a yoga instructor. And she married for the first time at 90, because she was the first of 9 children and she was in charge of them. And she was a yoga instructor. Every time she came to our house, she would take off her shoes. She would walk on the grass. And she was a storyteller. She was a woman full of wisdom. So I have on those spectrums such positive, and that is what I want everyone to know, that everybody deserves that, but it takes and take the opportunity of menopause when things are feeling like we're breaking down to we're no longer menstruating, right? But our hearts are bleeding because our hearts are broken and we have not shared so many traumas, limiting beliefs. We have not spoken to our really true self. So I feel that it's time for our soul and our heart to be heard. And this is the moment that we can take care of all those things. And having the space as coaches for other women to just talk about their story, about their history, about their biology, about their families, about their discomforts, all the things, because when we share, when we speak, like in this panel, it like I feel like vibrating like this because it's like we're so like-minded and we have such a big mission. I'm also part of another group, but they said today the world will be saved by the Western women, and that's said by Dalai Lama. Yes. And yes, we're here in a big, big mission. We can live a great life, and it starts at 50. So menopausal women, you can change everything. The way it's like you reevaluate your habits, you reevaluate your state of being, and you can decide, I no longer want to be that person because I don't like her. I want to be true and authentic and be expressing ourselves. I think we live in an era that now self-expression is more valid, and we have to bring it forth to allow that to happen.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. Well said. Thank you so much. My goodness. Well, let's see. Keren, you're next. What kind of positive beliefs, what kind of beliefs did you hold before menopause, before you learned about
I'm not even sure I remember. I'm not even sure I connected the dots as I was talking about my mother before, those were hot flashes. I just thought she was being, overly dramatic, probably. But now kind of just, in hindsight, sort of trying to look back, I'm like, well, it almost feels like, that movie Sliding Doors, where it's like, it can go this way, it can go that way. I think there were kind of two almost opposing things happening. So on the one hand, whether you want to call this denial or whatever it might be, it was this sort of idea of, well, that won't happen to me. We do this, right? We do this thing. That won't happen to me. So I kind of know about it, but put it sort of over here. And then, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've seen, I don't know if it's Japan or it might be Japan, where apparently there are very few symptoms of menopause, if I have this correctly, because they haven't been taught or they don't have examples. And I think there's many things going on from a holistic perspective, nutrition and all kinds of things, attitudes towards the older woman being revered in cultures where women are revered as the wise woman, as the crone, as the elder. You don't see the symptoms. So I think the mind-body connection is really, really important. And at the same time, like, so more recently, which others have spoken about, I've seen groups forming, and it's great to be talking, but I have seen groups that are so focused, and even the admins are asking questions that keep everybody in this place of how terrible this is. And that really breaks my heart. And they're not looking at that bigger picture. So I think, and then I think there are these patriarchal, the women becoming invisible as they get older. Oh, she's old. She doesn't have anything to contribute. Whether we connect that to menopause or not, it goes into our psyche. And there's a subconscious programming, for lack of a better term, that runs underneath. So I think it's kind of a weird, there's couple of opposing things that can happen. And yeah, it's just bringing it all, as people were saying, bringing everything up now, looking at it and understanding the power that actually is within us as we do our healing, as we look at our shadow aspects, as we integrate all of the parts of ourselves, particularly those parts that weren't healed during menopause, during puberty. Some of those things that we came in with, we go out with, and if they're not healed, those things are the things that come to the fore. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but I'm not sure, what I carried consciously and what I carried subconsciously. Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Okay. Thank you, Keren. Well, let's see. Oh my goodness. Yep, same question. Roxeanne, what beliefs did you have prior to knowing about menopause, studying it, researching it, and obviously going through your own early journey? Did you hold any positive, powerful beliefs about it?
Yeah, don't forget the timer. Otherwise, I'll talk and talk and talk.
Thank you.
So for me, I think growing up around women that always had hormone imbalances and had all these issues, I spent most of my days in and out of hospital bleeding on hormone treatments, and the doctors would always just say, this is your life. You're 20 now, in your 20s, but this is how it is, and you need to better manage it, and these are the painkillers you can take, and. And then over the years of spending, my 30s kind of switching my period off, which I thought was great. I mean, Allison, I'm sure I can relate to that whole, I don't have to deal with this. I got my life back. But what I didn't understand is that I was doing my hormones detriment, because by the time I gained 30 kilograms, lost my memory, was depressed, suicidal, anxious as anything, had 15 different other health issues that stacked up over time because of a result of the hormone treatments. When I came off everything and I was forced into a corner during lockdown, I then quickly realized that everything I'd always been told was a load of BS, that the women were not allowed to talk about it back then. And the doctors kept on saying, well, this is the best that we can do. And I said, no, something's not right here. This can't be it. And even though I was losing the weight over the years before 2020, I was getting sicker on the inside. But because we look better on the outside, we think we're okay, we think we're healing. And in the moment that my periods came back and everything just went haywire, and the stress of being an immigrant in different countries, I just moved to the UK, I quickly came to learn that the reason why women who are getting away with aging gracefully, like in Japan, for example, they eat a lot of fermented soy that isn't broken down. Like our soy is so processed. And so when I started looking at, well, hang on, it's not actually the food that's the problem. It's where it comes from, how it's sourced, farmed, raised, prepared, packaged, transported. And so I started learning how to navigate through that. And so before, I wasn't told anything. This is your life. Here are your meds. And I got sicker quicker. And then I learned that I'm truly powerful because I'm a woman. I have all these hormones, which if I learn to harness them, I can actually gracefully live without symptoms. And I actually now look forward to having my period every month, because when I don't have it, I have tender boobs, I have depression, I have all these things that are happening to me. But when I'm cyclic, when I'm syncing and I'm healthy in my cycle, I have no negative symptoms. And there's a book I want to share, Rushing Woman Syndrome, which doesn't mean anything as in fast-paced rushing around like you would think, by Dr. Libby Weaver. Incredible. She talks about women of all ages, whether you're menstruating, mid, post, or pre or post, how powerful we are as women, no matter our age, no matter what our symptoms are, that we can actually do it gracefully without being in this, how do I say it, like hiding in the shadows, like, oh no, it's menopause now, or oh no, we're getting old. No, and it's what everybody talks about here. There's a way to gracefully do it. And so I recommend everybody looks up that book, Rushing Woman Syndrome, as well as Dr. Mindy Pell's Fast Like a Girl. It's not just about fasting. It's about life as a woman and our connection with Mother Nature, food, our environment, our energy, our spirits, and how powerful we are when we come together. And so, yes, I'm on a mission to change the narrative. We as women are really powerful, especially when we come together like we are here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roxeanne. Yes, so true. You know, once we get this ball rolling and people are starting to pay attention and not feel like they can't talk about it or that it's some horrible thing, because let's face it, it's not. And it's made out to be that way. And I'll just share my own little thing. I had a partial hysterectomy when I was 31 and thought that was going to be great. And of course, still having my ovaries, still going through, little water retention now and again, little grouchiness now and again. I thought it was going to be, that was it. I didn't know. But then I went through chemo and had all of the symptoms that appeared to be like the horrible symptoms that you get when you begin menopause or perimenopause. So all the terrible things, I had them all going through that. And so then it's still like, did I go through it? I don't know. I never felt terrible except in that situation, the chemo situation, the drug-induced way of making that happen to your body. But still, because I don't menstruate, I don't know. I don't know if I have it. I don't know where my hormones are. And I feel great. And I'm just going to keep going with exactly how I'm going. I always had that crone vision in my mind, except I like to not think about it as the crone, because I always thought that was like some, old crickety lady lives up the lane in a cave. But to find out she's powerful and she's expressive and she's sharing all of her wisdom and her knowledge, well, yeah, I want to be that. So I'm claiming that right now. So I'm going to go with that. And I hope a lot of other women just decide, just decide. I want to be healthy. I want to take it forward in the most positive way possible, and just do that, because why not, right? So we have one more question, which is, what are your best practices within your scope that you would suggest for somebody who's either coming into perimenopause or, already really getting close to the actual menopause itself, or maybe even after postmenopause, if you have something that's really great to share there. So again, Coach Kylye, if you could go first, please.
Awesome. Okay. So when I first started doing this, I thought I was going to be speaking with a lot more women who were in perimenopause. And I found that the more women I took through my program, the ones who were getting the most out of it ended up being postmenopause, which was really surprising to me. And what I do with women and suggest is like we've all been talking around the mindset part of it, right? And I mentioned the spirituality part of it. And so I take women through a journey. Actually, let's start with the happily ever menopause part. So as we're little girls, we watch Disney and we learn that we're supposed to live this life and meet this person and then get a house and have children and then live happily ever after. And then one day I woke up and realized that after happily ever after came menopause that no one talked about. And so I started really looking at the crone and the different witches and hags and things in these stories and seeing the power that was in them and looking at other cultures that had the wise women in them, and then decided that I was going to take women through this journey where we looked into our ancestral line. We looked at what the women went through, how did the best that they could do with what they had, and where we were at because of the situations that they had gone through, like what was passed down intergenerationally, not just trauma, but also all of the gifts. And then to take those women and to, after you've looked at that really deep past part of it, then looking at what we have now and the talents that we have now, and how in this middle phase of our life, that we have all of these happy hormones that are the doing and the plate spinning hormones where we're doing everything for everyone. And now we come to this part where we need to look at ourselves with that same compassion that we gave everyone else and see our own gifts and know that we are the ones who are stepping into this phase that no one talks about, that is the phase that's supposed to be passing on the wisdom to these other generations. And so in order to do that, we have to say yes to it. We have to do it on purpose. And then we need to look deeply at what are our own gifts. And we've, been kind of shunned with like, you're not supposed to be too proud about what you can do, and you're not supposed to be too confident and walking this like line of equanimity between having confidence and not having confidence. And so I take women to figure out their gifts, and then so that's the middle piece of it. And then the end piece of what I do with women is to create who you want to be, to find that vision, to find the things in other women. Like I found so many here today with you, beautiful women, in who you want to become and who you're becoming and how to step into that process, so that what, like one of you said, you're not dying with these gifts that are being shared with the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kylye. I love that happily ever after menopause. Fantastic. Okay, Allison, what about you? What are your best practices for within your scope that you would like to share?
First of all, Coach Kylye, wow. It was funny when you're talking about it, I was like, thanks, Disney. You're so right. It's like, but personally, it's like, I like Maleficent. I always resonated more with the evil queen of Maleficent, because I always thought, there's something there. So I love that you embrace the crone. It is so beautiful. Because that's exactly where I think this whole panel is taking us, right? There is beauty on this side of the fence. And so when with what I have started in my practice is, one, I love to everybody's journey is so unique. So it's not a one size fits all. And everybody has their different elements of struggle, and everything has their different celebrations. And the first thing we do in the coaching container is we come up with a menopause vision statement, and we really dig into their core values and their big rocks, and to come up with a solid statement on how do you want your menopause to look. And a lot of times, right, we're going to get into those core values. And when they come up with that statement that really resonates with them, and we sort of like, okay, we've come up with this great statement. It's like, it could be anything from mental, physical, achieving, you know, a different job, anything that's sort of that they can see it now when we work on that vision statement. And then it's now let's work on the next steps to get there. And what are your blocks? What are your barriers? So then when we take those, that's when we sort of can come up with, this is your next best steps. And then I adopt into the hypnosis piece, because one thing I love about hypnosis is that you talk to the subconscious mind, right? You shut the noise down and you bring them to that state where you can start to weed out the negative talk, weed out the bad, and replant the good. And let's sort of come up with, you know, positive talk, positive body image, anything that has to do with that's going to help that vision statement come to life. Well, let's replant it, and then bringing them out of that hypnosis piece. And then of course I always send them home with the hypnosis. It's like, listen to it every single night before you go to bed. And next time we see each other, we're going to work on another piece of your vision statement. And we just sort of slowly lead them into that direction. I just absolutely love working with women and using that hypnosis piece, because you really can get to that part of the mind. And the women, how they come out, because they find they're lighter in the heart, and they actually have a solid point 1 to point 2. This is what it's going to look like. This is what I need to do. It gives them something concrete, and it becomes this beautiful, beautiful thing. And we just take little bites in their pillars of where they want to end up. So by the time we're said and done, they have something in front of them that they can work towards. So that's sort of what I do, and how I have managed my own menopause is basically using these modalities, and I love sharing them.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. My goodness. So much information. I'm like so thrilled. Can you guys tell? I think this is amazing. I love listening to all your wisdom, and yeah, and it's also different, which is perfect, I think, because there's so many different people in the world and on the Women's Wellness Network. So, okay, let's see. Coach Maaike, what is your best protocol, your best practices that you would put forth?
Yeah, and it's beautiful that we're coming together, because also people who listen to us, we all have different energy, and we all have different backgrounds and even cultural backgrounds. So when people listen to different women, it's like, oh, I love this part of her and I want that part. I want that because that's exactly me. So when they see themselves in you in some parts, it's like, oh, it's like a symbiosis, a partnership. And I always like to say to my clients, it's like, here you're not coming 50% and me 50%. It's 100%, 100%, it makes 200%. It's the best of you with the best of me. And together, I don't have all the answers. I just have a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more wisdom. And that is when they feel that, and they lower their defenses, or like their barriers, right? Because boundaries is so important. And when they lower that am I trying to say, that boundary or that defense, right, that border or that barrier, then it's like, oh, I can be transparent. So for me, I take them in a journey of like self-discovery, going back to basics, because we need to talk about the relationship with food, which is nurtured from when they are born. Like when we are all born, we are nurtured by our moms. How was that relationship? How was our mom when she was nurturing us? She was probably stressed. She was living in her 60s, right? In my case, and it was stressful. My mother, she was in a different country, and she was feeling very alone. And she recently told me, just recently this December, she said, I had to have a baby because I felt so alone. And that was you. That is me. So I have a big mission, right? It's like, okay, all these years, 50 years, I've been carrying with that aloneness of my mom. No wonder why I felt so alone and I couldn't share. But now that I'm discovering, it's like, oh my gosh, the importance of sharing and connecting and talking and asking questions is so important. So for me, I guide them through relationship with food, nurturing, right? And then the relationship with their soul, the relationship with their body, and like Allison, or yeah, just the dancing and bringing all the things that bring them joy. Because the first thing I ask them is like, what do you want? It's like, nobody has ever asked me, what do you mean? What do I want? Like, yes, you get to choose what you want. So what do you want? What does that look like? What is that vision of you? Like if you were in a painting or in a script or in a movie, what is a picture of you that you want to see right there? And then we start matching that, actually creating that, because they have no idea. So it's bringing the best, like little bit, pulling everything, and going into that inner child, because we're all ages, every age. So kind of healing that inner child from growing her up, taking her by their hand, like to kind of reconciliate with no longer those thoughts as you were like little children with limitations, but allowing and letting go and forgiveness and allowing all those things and growing that self-identity to the body that is now 50. Because we are working every day as a 5-year-old, right? In a 50-year-old body. So we have to grow that woman to 50 and beyond. And now, what do I want? But we have to meet her where she's at, grow her, and now go beyond, and then just create whatever she wants to create. So yeah, that's what kind of take them by the hand, depending, and it's all about habits. I'm a habit change master and mindset master too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, take them by the hand because, well, most people don't know. So you got to start from somewhere, and the beginning is always a good place to start. So Keren, how about you? What are your best practices or protocols for helping women with menopause?
Yeah, so many things I could say, but a lot of our lovely co-presenters have already covered that. I think for me, I mean, I talk about 3 pillars in the work that I do. And the first one is getting to know your whole self, which is how it sounds, the light and dark parts of yourself, integrating the shadow, the inner child. And we, especially in menopause, we get triggered. You know, things happen during, especially if our hormones are out of balance. We're going to notice and be irritated by that person. And so it's like, what is that showing me? And how could that actually help me? What's the piece of wisdom for myself there? And what can I let go of? What are the old stories and identities and roles and beliefs that I can strip away? And so I take women through sort of a 3-part process, really 4, but it mimics the lunar cycle. So there's the stage of the moon where things are falling away and we're releasing. And we, as women in menopause, are in that stage in our life. So that's about stripping things away. Then there's really, which is a very, so it's a feminine mysteries kind of approach that I take. So being okay to be in the mystery, the unknown, the dark. You know, we're very afraid of that in Western culture. And death, right? And so, but we as women know how to die to the old. That's what we used to do during our period. So this time now is about proactively and intentionally going through those stages and recycling and spiraling upwards every lunation or every month, like we used to do it. Well, if we were told, but we weren't told as women that that's what a period was actually for. And so ultimately, you know, I think the journey of the becoming the wise woman is really ultimately about this understanding that we know already how to die to the old and be reborn. And then if we can do that, we will live full out and we will not have fear of death, which is what drives a lot of the fear around menopause and around living in general. We don't live full out because we're always concerned with our death, or we negate aging. You know, we don't want to talk about it. It was never talked about before, all of that. So then there's also the very feminine practice of receiving. So rather than, yes, intention and what do we want to create in the next chapter of our life is really important, but I also help women to receive. So to kind of open. So if you're full up of other stuff and things you need to work with and heal, there's no space for the new. So letting things fall away is really important, looking at those things. Then a period of emptiness, being in the fertile void. What is it, you know, and listening, opening the cells to receive. And then from an intuitive place, listening to the soul, what it wants for you, as opposed to, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to, you know, which we can get into that. I've also seen groups of women at this time of life. It's about, we can do everything that the 30-year-olds do because we're powerful. And there's just a slight, like, it's not, you know, not quite right. It's not from a receiving place. It's from a forcing place, which could put you back in that hormone imbalance. So yeah, that's the process. And once we've done that, then we can actually shine, radiate, and then create from that place of knowing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Keren, so much. My goodness. Okay, I keep saying my goodness. Every time after one of you speaks, it's like, oh, that's like a whole nother thing I can like grasp onto. So, Roxeanne, last but not least, what about you? What are your best practices or protocols for women in menopause?
So I have found that the most effective way to help my clientele, who are generally between the ages of 45 and 65, is to understand how to lock in their body's unique requirements. And that includes food sensitivities, gut microbiome, hormone imbalances, digestive enzymes, what affects our thinking, because there's the gut-brain connection. And so as our hormones change, so do our emotions. And having lived with anxiety all my life and having lived with hormone imbalance, I know exactly how that feels. And so I have found what's been most effective in my practice is creating a blueprint for women using their DNA. So I have labs all around the world that can collect your sample from your home. And then we analyze and we look at exactly what your hormone panel looks like. What digestive enzymes are you lacking? What bacteria strains are you lacking? Because a multivitamin and a probiotic and all these wonderful things, there's no one size shoe fits all. And so when we lock in an accurate blueprint, we are able to create a precision nutrition plan, because all of these elimination plans and this plan, and there's no one size shoe fits all. We're all very different for a number of reasons. And so I have been able to help women learn how to live pain-free, symptom-free, reverse diseases, conditions, balance their hormones no matter what stage in the cycle that they're in. And this is all through food. I teach them how to eat the food that they actually do enjoy without creating inflammation in the body, because there's a direct link, which if you have pain and it keeps coming back, you have inflammation. And if you have chronic inflammation that keeps recurring, that's a breeding ground for all diseases. And if you leave that and you don't actually get to the root cause, which is whatever creates your inflammation, which is food and environment, you end up aging much faster. And then you end up entering menopause much quicker than you actually really need to. And so you actually quite literally can live symptom-free if you understand what your body's saying. Now, our body talks to us all the time. It's symptomatic sign language, which is what I've come to learn how to be an expert at by fixing my own health, reverse engineering what I did to get there, and then applying it to women of all ages and stages in their life. And so I find that by creating a blueprint that takes you from where you are now to the next step, not to where you want to get to. People just need to know where's the next step. And then I guide them through a 3 to 6 month program, depending on where they are, how much help that they need. And I teach them how to look at food differently again. Because, you know, eating gluten-free, lactose-free, fat-free, sugar-free, alcohol-free, caffeine-free, meat-free, no. First of all, what can your body handle? And second of all, what do you enjoy? But eat to heal, not harm. And just reconnect with yourself, because when you understand how to fix your gut, your happiness, the connection in your brain, you can then do anything. And so what I love about all of you women, I'm listening to all of you and I'm just like, this is so fascinating because everything each of you have said is so important. But I myself couldn't connect to myself because I was always depressed, always anxious, always being like thrown off because my gut is now telling me what it wants, because there's the gut microbiome. And so, yeah, that for me has been instrumental in my practice. And I have found most joy in helping women really lock in their personalized blueprint so they can get results every time. And then they can connect, like the rest of you would then come in and do what you do so well. So yeah, I love how we all come together with different tools here because it's fascinating. And sorry, just one last thing. As a coach, Maaike, you saying before we pass to not leave with our gifts because we're all so talented. We're all so different, all so unique. And when we come together, world, watch out. And so, Tammy, thank you very much for creating this space, this network, creating a place that we can have a voice, that we can speak authentically, not be afraid. And I get goosebumps just saying it. And so I just thank you.
You're very welcome. You're all very welcome.
And I will always go over my timer. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Not my strength.
It's our call. It's our show. It's our group. We can do whatever we want. I think ultimately. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so here we are. We've had our little round table. I'm just going to go through quick 30 seconds, final closing thoughts, maybe a takeaway, whatever you'd like to say. Kylye?
I was so involved in listening to all of you, I wasn't thinking at all about what to say.
Oh, that's okay.
Final thoughts. Remember that every month, all of the energy that it has taken when you have your period, and for most women, that's a very, very negative energy, but it's a massive amount of energy, whether it be positive or negative. And every month that's happening and it's releasing from you. Remember that in menopause, we get to retain what is the elixir of life, what is the creation of life inside of us. And all of that energy that we spend every month is inside of us now. And when that happens, it's powerful. And we need to find what to do with it. And all of us women are going to have different ways that we can help you with that. And it is multifaceted. I like to say it's glad menopause, genetics, lifestyle, attitude, diet, and each of those includes so many different things. But that energy is strong and it's powerful, and it can be hard to deal with, and it can be beautiful. And so I guess to just leave you with thinking about how much it's taken you in all of your moon times, and that is going to be inside of you now, and deciding what you want to do with it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kylye. Wonderful. For not having anything to say, you spoke beautifully. So thank you. All right, Allison, any final thoughts or takeaways from today?
Know how to follow that. It's so beautifully done. One, I want to thank Tammy for just creating this beautiful space for all of us to reach out to, giving us a voice and a platform, because I think I speak for everyone on this panel. You helping us create this voice is just going to send ripples to everyone else who's watching. Anybody who's in a corner who's shy about asking the questions, you now have this beautiful panel of women that are here to help whatever we did to resonate with you. To say to everyone on this panel, I think that it was a divine thing that has happened with Tammy reaching out to all of us. We all seem to be in this beautiful energy space, and I've learned so much from all of you in the past hour, and have so many questions for all of you as well. So just thank you so much for anybody watching and anybody reaching out to Tammy. And Tammy, just thank you so much for being here. And ladies, thank you for sharing your energy with me today. I will take so much in, and I am so appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you. Lovely. Okay, Coach Maaike, what about you? Thoughts, takeaways for today?
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much for putting this together. I've learned so much. And here we are demonstrating how important it is for each one of us and each one of you, everybody listening out there, to find a tribe, not only just a one-on-one coaching, which is very, very powerful, but I've known and I've notice that we need a tribe of like-minded women. And in that space, we can learn so much from each other. Every day, look for something that brings you joy and do that, because their life is going, life is happening. And that is what really ignites your day for the rest. So if you can do that first thing in the morning, the best, because how you start the day is you set the tone for the rest of the day. So every day, something that brings you joy, because that joy is the song that you have within, and that is willing and is wanting to be dancing, and it's wanting to be expressed. And yeah, feel delicious. And that also reignites your passion for your inner self, right? Your deliciousness and your pleasure. So very, very important.
Ooh, delicious pleasure. Nice. We can take that forward for sure.
Yes.
With that. Okay, Keren, how about you? Takeaways, thoughts from today?
Yeah, just a quick thank you so much to you, Tammy, and to everybody for this. It's been a beautiful hour. I really, really enjoyed it. Very nourishing. Learned a lot from each and every one of you. I think what I want to say is the wise woman, we are all wise women. And everybody watching this and all of us here, and we are becoming what we've always been as the wise woman. And as the wise woman going through menopause in the second half of life, we are bringing with us the virgin, the maiden archetype. We're bringing with us the nurturing mother. We're bringing with us the queen, the crone, all of these beautiful archetypes. They are all in us. And we are also nature. I think that's really important. And so everything which we see out there, we have in us, and the body of the earth is her body. And as we lead and rise, so too will the world will change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we're building the new earth, one wise woman at a time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Keren. All right, Roxeanne, how about you? Thoughts, takeaways for today?
Well, again, thank you, Tammy, for creating the space. Thank you for all of you being here. I'm just feeling so alive. Yes, a message for everybody watching, whether you are perimenopause, mid-menopause, or post-menopause, you can quite literally have the life that you want if you just learn how to lock in what your body really needs. Quit guessing, get testing. You know, when you go to the doctor, they don't just take a whim, they take vitals, they take your bloods, they collect certain data. Do the same. Never settle, ever. Because when you learn to actually balance your body, prioritize your sleep, eat according to what your body actually needs, you will light a fire within you and you will become unstoppable. Ask me, because I did. I did that. And I see it every single day in my practice, women coming back from so many different issues. That's why my blueprint is called the Bounce Back Body Blueprint, for a reason, because you can bounce back from anything. Doesn't matter your age or stage in life. And yes, life does start at 50, they say. So I can't wait, because I'm only 44. But from here on, you can do anything you put your mind to, but you need to have that gut-mind connection sorted. And from there, well, the sky's the limit.
Beautiful. Thank you, Roxeanne. Oh my goodness. I would love to thank all of you. Beautiful presentation, beautiful ways to answer. I found myself, I'm like in interview mode. I just want to keep asking you questions. And when you finish talking, I'm like, oh no, that's not what I'm doing here. So anyways, yes, women of the Women's Wellness Network, those of you who are viewing now or in the future, put your questions into the comments. If you'd like to connect with any of these ladies, put their name into the comments. Use, let me get this right, #connect@ and then their name. And I believe everybody, maybe Coach Kylye, and I'll put their names in there so you'll know who's who. That'll just make it easier. How about that? Okay, so go ahead and connect with them, and don't be shy. You know, we're all heading that way if we're not there now. So we're blessed when we get to go on the menopause journey, because that means we have lived a lifetime and we have experience and some wisdom to share. So again, ladies, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. And oh my goodness, yep, lots of love. many, 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 much, much, much. So thank you. And until next time, everyone, be well.